What's up, everybody? It's Jackson Paradise here again today with another episode. Have some pretty exciting stuff in college football that's came out and happened this past week, and we're gonna talk about them, dig into them, and let's hop into the video. Like I said, an interest and pretty exciting, interesting, for some fan bases worrisome information that's came out in college football this week. Let's start with the LSU football program.
And yes, I'm talking about this LSU football program, the one led by Coach O. And we're specifically going to focus on star tight end Arik Gilbert. It came out earlier this week and has been confirmed by many sources, especially close within the LSU program, that earlier this week Gilbert said he started feeling basically homesick, and basically seems like Coach O and the LSU coaching staff is fighting to keep him on campus and on the football team. But as of today, it came out that he is going to opt out for the rest of the season and head home back to Marietta, Georgia. And I think that's a huge blow for this LSU football team, especially because just of how gifted this man is. They said, according to 24/7 Sports, he was the highest rated tight end recruit of all time, and that is not easy to do. Hey, you see his 24/7 Sports recruiting page. Obviously, it says tight end, 6'5", 253 pounds, from Marietta, Georgia. This man's basically like a freak of nature. But the interesting thing is, before he made his decision, people really thought it was an Alabama-Georgia battle. Obviously, home state of Georgia. But, I mean, LSU fans, you kind of got to start to worry about what Coach O's doing with this roster. Obviously, all the opt-outs, the defense hasn't performed, and now losing one of the most prized recruits, possibly to one of your conference foes, as in Alabama or Georgia, which I would not be surprised if he goes to one of those. But let's hop into the next topic. Obviously, our next topic is going to be on the game between the Ohio State Buckeyes and Michigan Wolverines, as it was announced that this Saturday's game between these two teams will be canceled due to COVID-19 in the Michigan football program. And the bad thing about this for Ohio State and the Big 10 is there's not a guarantee at all that Ohio State gets in the college football playoff to represent the Big 10, mainly because the Big 10 has a rule where a team has to play at least 6 games to play in the conference championship, and Ohio State is at 5. This was going to be the last game. And with that happening, unless the Big 10 changes the rules to allow Ohio State to play, I just can't see the Big 10 getting a team in the playoff right now because of this happening. And the next thing with this game being canceled is this man right here, Coach Jim Harbaugh. Obviously hasn't had a really good season this year, and this game getting canceled might have just saved him at least one more year. But what I've read about and heard people say is they won't fire him. Harbaugh is either going to leave on his own terms, possibly to the NFL, or get a contract extension. Time will tell, and
So I just wanted
we'll
to
see what
hop in on
happens.
this real quick. So it was actually last night when I was recording this video talking about most of this stuff. And today it came out that the Big 10 will indeed change their minimum game requirement, which basically will allow Ohio State to play in the Big 10 championship game. I don't know how I feel about this. Obviously, when conferences like the SEC and the ACC started playing earlier this year, the Big 10 waited until basically a month after to start playing. And that didn't give the Big 10 basically any bye weeks, already playing a couple games less than conferences like the SEC and the ACC. Now the Big 10's reversing course, giving Ohio State that treatment, and Kevin Warren, they're making themselves look a little embarrassing, to be quite honest, and it is what it is. It's out of our control, but there's that. Our next order of business is we're going to discuss the new college football rankings that came out Tuesday night, last night, and was kind of going to dig into some of the teams, especially the top 4, maybe top 10 teams. Because if you think about it, being in that top 10 right now isn't an awful place to be. Because you think about it, 4th ranked Ohio State, their game got canceled. If they can't make the Big 10 championship game, I don't think they'll make it in the playoff. Number 5, Texas A&M, their game got canceled this weekend also. Florida, they're 6th ranked. They'll play Alabama in the SEC championship game. You got number 2 and number 3 with Notre Dame and Clemson respectively playing against each other in the ACC championship game. If Notre Dame wins, obviously that knocks Clemson out. That scenario right there, Bama beats Florida, Notre Dame beats Clemson. I gotta look at Cincinnati, a group of 5 team, jumping in that top 4, possibly claiming that 4th spot. Obviously, Georgia's in the top 10. Personally, I think they're ranked a little too high. Miami's still up there, and you just never know what'll happen. Football, especially college football, is a crazy game, and there have been crazy events happen, so you just never know. Obviously, as you all saw, that top 6 stayed the same. But I think
So here,
that 4, 5,
obviously,
and 6 are
you have
very,
a picture of the
intriguing.
new playoff rankings that came out last night.
You have Texas A&M
Obviously, as you see, the top 6 really stayed the same. Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, Clemson 3, Ohio State 4.
And I think it's going
And
to
the
be
top
really
6 rounded out with A&M at 5 and Florida
on what
at
the committee
6.
does with Ohio State, if they're impressed enough with Ohio State's wins. But then again, what happens with Alabama and Florida depends on who wins that game, and also the ACC championship game. Obviously, if Notre Dame beats Clemson, Clemson's out of the playoff with 2 losses, so you're looking at basically guaranteeing 2 SEC teams in. But then again, what happens if Clemson beats Notre Dame, which I think everybody expects that to happen? It's weird. There's going to be an interesting couple weeks with what happens in that. But now we're going to take a look at some of the other big team movements in that top 25. Iowa State jumped up to number 7. They jumped up 2 spots, and they jumped Cincinnati and Georgia. Cincinnati, who was originally number 7, had their game postponed last weekend, so that bumped them down to number 8. And Georgia, who was at number 8 last week, also had their game against Vanderbilt last weekend postponed, and they jumped down to number 9. Shout out to Coastal Carolina. Jumped up, I believe they were 19th last week, jumped up to 13th this week. Let's not forget they have 2 top 20 wins. Number 19 Louisiana and number 18 BYU, obviously beating BYU last weekend. That team's a little surprising, to be honest, and depending on what they do with their conference championship, I believe they play Louisiana again. It'll be interesting to see what happens, where the playoff ranks them in their final rankings and what happens there. Obviously, shout out Missouri. Missouri came in 25th, rounding out the top 25. And so, by conference, you have the SEC with 5 teams, ACC with 5 teams, and then the Big 12 3 teams and the Big 10 4 teams. It's going to be interesting for full season, I believe, just with these different New Year's 6 games, who's playing who. I think it's going to be interesting depending on who gets left out of the playoff, who gets in the playoff. All in all, it's the committee's choice, and we just got to sit back and watch football, which you won't hear any complaining from me on that part. Just wanted to say thank you guys for checking this video out and watching it. Obviously, the support means a lot to me. And please make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button and hit that bell button so y'all know when I'm posting videos. But thank you guys for the support regardless. It means a lot to me for the channel. and Roll Tide, obviously, and hope all you guys have wonderful holidays with your families, friends. Be safe and enjoy yourselves. Thank you.